Hi, and welcome to the Art Splash podcast, where we will have open and playful and also meaningful and thought-provoking conversations about art, creativity, life, and spirituality that will stimulate both your mind and soul and give you a chuckle at the same time. So we're here for
Here we
our
are, finally.
very first podcast.
Yeah. I'm really excited to do this with you. I've been thinking about this for a while and coming up with or having lots of ideas as to, the different kinds of topics that we can talk about together. And it's just amazing. Every day I come across something and I think, oh, yes, oh, yeah, we can talk about that. That would be that would be a really great topic. Yeah.
So let's just kind of, I guess, say how we got together.
Yeah. Okay. Well, shall I start then?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as I was a student of yours. I was someone who was following you on YouTube, and I had signed up for a couple of your online classes, and I joined your community, when you launched it. And I was really enjoying, having those conversations with you while we were, in those live sessions. And I really got to feel that you were such a wonderful person, as well as a talented artist, of course. And at any rate, at some point, I found out that you were living in the south of Spain. And as you know, I live in Portugal. And I was planning on going to visit some friends that live just outside of Malaga. And when I looked up the town that you live in, I realized you were only about, half an hour's drive away. So I got it into my head that, oh, I should contact Joy, and, maybe, she would be willing to meet with a lowly student.
Oh God. As
Anyway,
if you know.
but what was the funny part was that I think I tried reaching you in 4 or 5 different ways. I think I sent you an email. I think I sent you a message on the community board, and I didn't get an answer. And then finally I reached out to Dorothy, the lady who was helping you with the social media, on Messenger. And I said,
Oh,
look, Diana, sorry, not Dorothy.
How come I didn't get those messages? I
I
wonder.
don't
That's
know,
really
but
strange.
it was kind of weird because I'm not a pushy kind of a person. I don't, if someone doesn't answer me when I will reach out to them, I just back off and I say, okay, it's, I'm bothering them and it's not meant to be. But I kept persisting and I kept persisting. And then finally, you sent me your phone number and you said, contact me on WhatsApp. And that's how, we finally made the connection. And then you very, very, kindly invited me to come and meet you for lunch at your house, which was absolutely wonderful. And we had a wonderful afternoon.
Yeah, we did.
That's kind of how it all started, isn't it? We met and
Yeah.
we just talked and
Well,
talked and
I'm
talked.
really sorry that I didn't see those emails or messages. How awful.
No, but it was a really interesting lesson for me in, like, I really felt I needed to meet you and I just kept going at it. And so I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, and the rest is history, really, because now, we've been working, well, not working together, but being together, sorting some great things out, and the retreat being the main thing, really, because I think it was your suggestion.
It was. It was my idea. Yeah.
So, for those who you don't know what we're talking about, we're organizing an art retreat here in Spain, in Frigliana, which is the village that I live in. Just outside, there's a beautiful villa that a friend of mine told me about, that they were doing yoga retreats there, and said, wouldn't it be nice to have an art retreat? And I thought, yeah, that would be great, but it would be so much organization to do that on my own, that although I think it was a brilliant idea, I thought it was just too overwhelming to think, oh, how am I going to put this together, plus everything else that I'm doing? So when you suggested it, I thought, oh, yes, I can have some help.
Yeah,
So
no, and I was
yeah,
very happy to, to jump on board and to help you, and I still am, obviously,
yeah,
working
no, that's
on getting
great.
it
Well,
pulled together.
where are we? We're now we're the middle of June, and the retreat is in September, and there are still a few spaces left.
Yeah,
So yeah, not very many, but a few left, which would be great. I think it'll be a fantastic week. So yeah,
yeah,
I'm
I think so
excited
too.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's going to be lots and lots of
yeah,
interesting learning and experiences, I'm sure, for everybody.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what other things are you involved with other than the art? Share that.
Well, yeah, so maybe just give you a little bit of background. I don't know if I've ever really kind of given you my history or some of my history, but most of my work career was in clinical research. I used to work for a pharmaceutical company in Canada, in Montreal,
Right.
in what they call clinical operations. So essentially, it's a department that manages all that's involved with running clinical trials. So all of the
Wow. Okay.
supplies, the technology, the finance, and also the gathering of the data, and the analysis of the data. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a very regulated and detailed oriented job. The whole spectrum of it is got so many, kind of rules and regulations and procedures and so on and so forth. So most of my career has been, in a very sort of, looking at things from that perspective in a very, step-by-step procedural way. But at the same time, I have always felt so drawn to artistic and creative things because I just felt that the technology and the data driven side of things is really interesting to me. I have a background in science. I have a bachelor's of science from McGill, and I really love that.
Wow.
But I also
Yeah.
feel very drawn to the artistic and creative side of life. And so I've always dabbled in different things. I've done pottery, I've done garment making and making artistic quilts and jewelry making, and I've just tried all kinds of different things. And I've always wanted to get into painting deeper and deeper. And it was one of those things that I felt I really struggled with because I really truly believed I didn't have any real innate talent or ability. Um, and it's a
And
process,
how
isn't it?
sad that so many people think that, and how awful it is because everybody has.
I know. And it's a discovery process for me still ongoing. And a little bit at a time. And I just am so curious to try new things. And so, I've jumped onto various online courses and followed them along. And everybody has their own, particular way of teaching. Some of them I really didn't feel connected to, and yours obviously I did. And there's others that I
Which
also
was the
felt,
class that you started with?
oh gosh, of yours, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was the abstract made simple.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of my leader class, that the one that I think introduces everyone to what I'm doing. Oh, great. Okay.
yeah. So anyway, I think that, when I finished, so going back to my career, about a year or so ago, I finished, working, I was doing contract work for a company in the UK, and the contract ended, and I thought, no, I don't want to continue doing this. I need a break. And I realized that there was a part of me that really felt I wasn't contributing. I wasn't really um, doing something meaningful and purposeful with my life. So I realized that I wanted to jump into something that really allowed me to give, to help people. And so I went into a life coaching program. So I took
Oh,
a couple
okay.
of courses.
Fantastic. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
And interestingly enough, the coaching program that I did was very much based in neuroscience. So still kind of with my
Okay.
foot in the science side of things. But
Okay.
this time from the perspective of how do our brains work and how do they affect our behavior? And, what is the end result of us having certain programs in our brain, and how, everybody talks about neuroplasticity these days, don't they? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
and how it works. And it's really, truly amazing. And I wanted to bring that together with the artistic side of things. And so that's why I'm, now launching or starting my practice, which brings creativity practices into the neuroscience, and sort of marrying them together and talking about how you challenge your beliefs, as I did, about not being creative by doing creative things and realizing that you actually are creative. So it's a learning process. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, to put those two things together, I think is really helpful for people to get that, because so many people say to me, "Oh, I'm not creative. I don't know how to do this. I don't know where to start." And I feel it's such a shame, because they've blocked that creativity so effectively. So one of my kind of passions is to help people to, unlock that within themselves, have the confidence to at least try,
Yeah.
because it's in the doing, as you've just said, that you discover, actually, I can do that.
Yeah.
And it's there. And I think people get really surprised with themselves that they realize that actually it's all there. They just haven't pressed the right button yet. So, that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
And it's also an acceptance and a learning process for learning, because learning is filled with making, you don't learn without making mistakes, do you? Mistakes, whatever mistakes are. And so the more you do it, the more you understand how to do it, or understand how not to do it, to get the end result that you're looking for. So it's iterative. It's not just you wake up one day and you paint a masterpiece, is it? As
No.
you've experienced. And so that's part of it. And I think that that's the other thing, is that people, as a silly example, I used to play golf, back a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
I became, reasonably good at it, but I wasn't good at it from the very beginning. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, I know how to play golf." They'd pick up the golf club and they'd swing, and they wouldn't hit the ball, or they'd hit the ball and it would go off in the wrong direction, and they would give up. And I'd say, "Well, how can you expect to learn how to do something by just trying it once without any direction, without any tutelage or anything? You've got to practice, and you've got to learn how, what the steps are." And I think that's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
For sure. And I think the wonderful thing about painting, well, about any art actually, but in relationship to myself, there's always something new to learn. It never ends. And I love that exploration. That really gives me a buzz. Oh, I've discovered something new. In
Yeah,
fact, I'm going to just tell you a funny story.
please.
I saw a YouTube. I've got some, it's summer now here in Spain, and it's really hot. And you go to the market and you buy your dresses and, as few clothes as possible, really. And I've got a whole bunch of dresses that I've had, I don't know, for the last 4 or 5 years. And I just dig them out for the summer. And then you go to the market, you buy something else. They're not expensive, but then you'll be walking down the street and you'll see loads of other people wearing the same dress. I hate. Any case, so I saw this great YouTube video, because I thought, I'm going to dye them. I'm going to do something interesting with these dresses.
Okay.
And this really fascinating woman, and she'd kind of got all this fabric. She did a lot of arts and crafts and making quilts and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so she'd got this big bowl and she'd got all this paint, and she was dunking these things, and she created some really wonderful colors. So I thought yesterday, I thought, right, I'm going to have a go with one of the
Oh,
dresses because it had
oh,
all faded. It had been like a lovely teal turquoise, but it had, you know, over the last 2 years of all the washing, it's kind of a no color now. Any case, so I did it and I've produced the most fabulous dress. I'm so
really?
thrilled. Yeah, I should have brought it with me to show you, but it looks like an abstract painting.
Oh, right.
And I thought, wow, I could do something similar to that with canvas. The
Ah,
point that I'm making is there's always something new
yeah.
to go wow to.
Well,
So
you
anyway,
just,
I've got all my other dresses now. I think I've got 4 that I'm going to do with different color combinations.
that's a good
So you'll
idea.
see me next time in
Yeah.
a abstract dress.
Give us a fashion show. Yeah, exactly.
I could start a new business with abstract clothing.
That's a really great
But what
idea.
the point is that it's so exciting to actually explore. I mean, if it had gone wrong and it was a disaster, it was of no consequence. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it was great because I put my gloves on and I was like splashing paint all over it, and it was great. And this fabulous garment has appeared. So
Lovely.
Vivian Westwood, watch this
Watch
space.
out. Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. And you've also just
Okay.
delved into collage, haven't you? You've been producing all kinds of interesting collage
Yeah.
pieces.
Well, you can see behind me. Well, I mean, I have done collage obviously in the past, but I've never taken it a step further. I've just kind of done it, maybe added a piece of collage to a painting, or, I've done my what do they call it, vision board
Mm.
with collage, cutting out nice sayings, and I have that in my studio. But I've never sort of taken it seriously, as it were, to see what else I could do. So um, once I was putting the master class together, the collage class, and obviously I did a lot of preparation before I actually put the class together, and was reading a lot about it and looking at how it all came together. The collage started in China and Japan in the 12th century. It's
Oh my
amazing.
goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
we're it must be sort of, it's really historical that this kind of form of art started, but it wasn't really till the beginning of the 20th century when Picasso and Georges Braque started to use it as a serious art form. And of course, you've got Matisse and various other artists. So there's something really incredibly creative about it. So I thought, okay, I'll see what draws me, and I take the dog out for a walk every day, and I'm walking sort of in the countryside, and there's all lots of interesting things, particularly here because we have so many mountains and rocks, and
Mm.
the rock formations are fabulous. So I was taking photographs just of the rocks because of all the shapes and the colors and nice. And I thought, I can do something with this, with the collage. So that's how come these sort of came together, because I've done that. And then with the color palette, I did some jelly plating
Mm.
of the colors and some different designs. And it's sort of run away with me, really.
It's very
And the whole,
addictive.
yeah. And I think, it's incredible how once you start something, and you switch that switch on and then you allow it to develop, it
Yeah.
takes you into a whole new realm. And that's the point. I think that's the exciting thing for me about not just painting but teaching, because if I can help somebody switch the switch on, and they're off and away, it's like teaching somebody to drive, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
They learn to drive, then they get the car, and then they go on their adventures. And to me, that's a little bit like how I feel about my teaching. If I can help that, somebody switch the switch on, know, how to get into first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and go,
Yeah.
um, and explore for themselves and feel great about it, then that makes me happy.
Yeah,
So
it's really satisfying, isn't it? When you watch
yeah,
someone else kind of take off and do their
yeah, it's
thing.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and over the years, I mean, now I've been teaching, gosh, 23 years, and no, not quite, 22 years. And I've had some fantastic students, when I was actually teaching in person, with, weekly classes and then workshops and all that kind of thing. And I've had some fabulous success stories of people who've really gone on and done something serious with it. I had one guy, oh, that was wonderful. He didn't know one end of a paintbrush to the other, but he was very determined to paint. And he started off, and he used to come to my class. We called him Ferrari Mike
Okay.
because he was retired, but he was like 55 at the time, and had sold his business and made a bunch of money and arrived half an hour late to the class in a bright red Ferrari. We heard it coming up the road. And he parked outside the house. Oh my God, he's the guy that's coming to the class. So we called him Ferrari Mike. and and it was just very amusing because he wouldn't put the paintings that he'd done in the car in case he got paint on the car. So he used to say, right, will you bring them down to the house, when you're coming down into town? Okay. Anyway, so he was like, did the classes for, a few years, but in between in the summertime, he went and did a workshop or a summer course at, I think it was the either St. Martin's or the Chelsea Art College in London. And he's become a really fantastic portrait artist.
Really?
Yeah. And, I see his stuff up on Facebook now. I mean, this is years ago. I'm talking, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But he's a really fabulous artist now. And he's applied to do the Portrait Artist of the Year that they have on the BBC. I don't know whether he's got in. He'll probably let me know.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful to know, exactly where he started to where he is now. And, I helped him turn that switch
Yeah.
on. That's really satisfying. That's just one. There's a whole load of other people I could tell you about, but his story was just funny because we called him Ferrari Mike.
Yeah.
He used to tell us some very funny stories about what he did. But anyway, there we go.
And did someone do that for you? Is that how you got started?
No, well, yes and no is the answer to that. How I first really was interested in painting when I was at school. I was actually trained as a dancer. I was at stage school, and to do dance, ballet, and modern and whatever. Which is very much what my mother wanted me to do. She was a frustrated dancer. So she had very much pushed me into dancing. And she wanted me to go to the Royal Ballet, which I auditioned for. And it's very, very strict. And you have to go through 4 auditions. And I went through 3 of them, which was all fine. And then the last one was medical. So they measure your bones, and I think I was 10 at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, my bones weren't in the right, my back, apparently, which I know now, all these years later, was slightly out of sync.
Oh,
so
dear.
I wasn't accepted at the Royal Ballet, but the next one was called the Arts Educational Trust, which was the next kind of one down from the Royal Ballet in those days. So I was there. But I used to love painting. And I used to get very frustrated because my eldest sister, she was also very into design and painting, and she was allowed to go to art college, and that really used to upset me because I used to love painting. And I won a competition. I think I was about 13. And I won an art competition at school, which, I was really excited about. But anyway, my parents were determined that I was going to dance, so that's what I did right up to a long time. I did all kinds of interesting things, which is another story altogether, which I'm not going to go into now, but it was quite exciting. But in the background, I was always kind of messing around with painting. Then I got married, and I had my first child. And very sadly, when he was 6 months, he died.
Mm.
And my godfather, who was an artist, who I was very, very close to, started me painting watercolors, which I'd never done before, to help me get over this tragic situation.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to William Turner, the British artist who was just is phenomenal, was phenomenal. So I started very much with watercolors, and I did that for a very long time. And I had some exhibitions, I sold paintings, I got more and more into it and got very hooked on it. And really then a whole load of other things happened, and I had to stop for the time being. Oh no, actually no, before that I went, I decided I'd go as a mature student, to the Manchester Art College. So I went to did the foundation course, and I think I was 32 by then. God, it's all so long ago.
Yeah.
And I did the foundation, and then I got accepted to do the degree course, to do the actual 3-year course. And so I got into that, and then everything went pear-shaped because my husband decided he was going to go and do other things. So he left, and I couldn't then have the time to continue with the college. So there was a big space then. And then I moved to Spain in 2000, and I started painting again in acrylics.
Okay.
So, and it was fantastic. I was, reading a lot of books, and I was a massive fan of Paul Klee and of Picasso and Kandinsky and loads of interesting people. And I kind of really got into it. And then my mother died. And that started a whole new thing with painting. So I got incredibly into abstract painting to get rid of all that stress and anxiety of my mother dying. And then people started asking me, well, I'd like to paint. Well, will I show them what I do? Okay, so I started with a few people, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And in the end, I had about 30 students, which was fantastic. And it just went from strength to strength. I went on and did some other courses and learned new things, and went on a course on acrylics, which was fantastic. And yeah, it was really, really great. And I landed up running an art center in a little village called Mijas Pueblo. And that was wonderful, doing all kinds of workshops and classes and courses, and it was fabulous. And then lockdown.
Yeah.
And that literally changed everything. So I was wondering what on earth to do. So that's when I started with putting all the classes and the workshops online.
Yeah.
And then, that's been brilliantly successful, which is wonderful because it's introduced me to the world.
Yes, and it's how the world finds
so many people.
Now. Yeah, I know. Incredible.
And then I do miss working with people one-to-one, I have to say. So the retreat I'm really excited about, because actually that, we're going to be painting together, and it does make a difference. To both for me to talk to them and for students to talk to me.
Yes.
You get to the nitty gritty, which obviously you can't do so much online. It's different. But yeah, it's been a really interesting time.
Yeah, I think that is what I've also missed, is not having that ability to be in the same space as someone who I can just turn to and say, can you give me some advice? Should I do it this way
Yeah.
or that way, or what do
Way
you
or
think?
whatever. Exactly. Yeah.
It makes sense.
It does make a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I have got plans, I hope, maybe to be able to do some Zoom lessons, or have the group show me their pictures and I can then, have that conversation.
Right.
That is something that I'm looking at possibly to do within the community. I think that would be helpful. We'll see.
Yeah.
One thing at a time. There's so many things that I'm going on. It's a question of timing, really. I mean, even doing the podcast, it's another commitment. Not that I'm afraid of the commitments, but there's only so many hours in the day to do so many things.
Yes, and it takes away your time from doing your creative efforts, isn't it? Same for me as well.
But going back to the point about what you were talking about, I think from my experience of all the teaching, I would say the majority of people that have come to physical classes, and I think now very much also online, are people going through challenging situations. Divorce, being widowed, being made redundant, health issues, so many different things that have provoked the idea that there must be something else. A little bit like, you said that you knew that you wanted to be creative. You had something inside you that was moving towards that. And I really strongly feel that about any kind of art, arts, crafts, sculpture, music, whatever. That it's a tremendous release for people, and a real healer. I think, my painting has been my lifesaver through so many different scenarios. Obviously, when Nathaniel died, it was horrific, but being able to have something to focus on that was creative,
something outside of yourself,
it kind of gave me a different perspective. And now, I, in so many ways, I thank him for the opportunity to be able to do what I'm doing.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. I know.
I mean, next week, can you believe he'd be 47?
Oh, wow.
I can't believe that it's that long ago. And I still, say thank you for his sacrifice, for me being involved in what I'm doing, because I would have gone off on a completely different track, maybe. I don't know what, sliding doors, isn't it?
It is. I know. Yeah. And one of the wonderful things about art is that I'm learning more about it as I do it, but I'm also realizing that there's it allows you to express yourself in a way that words don't allow you. It allows you to express feelings and bring things into kind of a two-dimensional, or maybe even a three-dimensional outward object that comes from within you, but that you wouldn't be able to express with your vocabulary, because words sometimes just are not satisfactory, are they? To really talk about what you're feeling, and sometimes you don't even know what you're feeling. Feelings are something that we do tend to suppress a little bit, and when you're doing a piece of art, it just comes out. You don't, because you're hopefully not judging yourself and you're not stopping yourself, you're just letting it flow. And that's one of the keys, is to just let it kind of all come out and let it happen without judging and stopping, saying, no, don't do it that way. This isn't right, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And for a period of time, I don't know how long ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, I did no longer than that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I did art therapy course, because I thought, let's take this one step forward. And because of the realizing that so many people were painting to get over traumatic situations, and I worked, I don't know, gosh, how long, for about 2 years in a rehab center,
Okay.
and various people, from kids, I'm saying kids in their teenagers right up to, adults. And some of the stuff that happened with their painting was quite phenomenal, because a lot, especially the teenagers and the young adults, in their 20s, the expression, the stuff that came out, and then that they could slowly start to talk about was, very fundamental to how they came to be on drugs in the first place.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Of
What
course,
pushed
of
them
course.
to that point where they needed to drown themselves in, taking all the various substances that they did to null the pain.
Yeah.
And the stuff that came out was absolutely amazing and transformational for them, because they hadn't recognized the real crux of the problem. And then it was very helpful for the therapist working with them to what they produced within the art.
Yeah.
It added a whole new dimension to being able to really help them back to health,
Right.
and clear themselves of the drug situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously that's an extreme, but it's fantastic what comes out when you allow it. I think one of the challenges is a lot of people still tend to not allow it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because of the judgment, and it's not good enough, and it's childlike, and what on earth is this, and anyone can, all that nonsense would stop them from actually the freedom of going, well, actually, I feel like this.
Yeah.
And you'll end up with this on a canvas or a paper, and it can be quite frightening, that recognition.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's really going on.
Yeah. Well, one of the ways that I'm hoping to approach it with people, I've also just finished a certificate program in art therapy, which of course doesn't make me an art therapist, but it's given me some other tools and techniques that I can, use to help people with in my coaching. Is to just maybe start with something really small, because sometimes a canvas is intimidating and paint is intimidating. So if you start with a piece of paper and a pen, and you just follow along and you do certain designs like the Zentangle, that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And you can end up with something that really, it did, when I did it the first time, it really shocked and surprised me as well. What a beautiful sort of end result you can get. And that
exactly,
it inspires you to try something more and something different and so on.
We've done quite a lot of talking about our backgrounds and how we've come to painting. So I think it would be great to tell everybody what we want to do with this podcast.
Yes. Yeah, well, I think that, together, we have quite a diverse background, and we have a lot of common, interests and a common philosophy of life, I would say, just, by virtue of us getting to know each other. And
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there's so much that we can offer to listeners in terms of different interesting topics and insights and perspectives on not just art, but creativity in general and life in general. I don't think we need to limit our conversations to just talking about painting. In fact, I know we don't want to do that, because just things like AI, that we've discovered, both of us, in the last little while, and what the implication and the consequences and the advantages and the scary part of it, all of that, it's another wave of the world that's coming to us very quickly.
Yeah.
So as
and
an
how
example,
I think also how we can use it creatively. I'm just exploring a site that you can put a design in, and then it will give you different designs from the original design. I think that's kind of quite exciting, because then you can do more with that, so you can keep capitalizing on what it gives you creatively. I feel that one of the dangers is it can just take over from you having to think things through.
Yeah,
You put the question in, how do I write this, or whatever it might be, and it just does it for you. And instead of it, for me taking a day, it takes 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, there's some great advantages, but there's some great disadvantages as well, really.
Yes.
So yeah, that'll be an interesting subject.
Yeah. Well, I think you probably listened to that podcast by Mo Gaudat about AI.
Fantastic. Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
what an amazing man. I mean, wouldn't it be
Yeah.
wonderful if we could invite him to talk to?
Oh, I tell you, that would be fabulous. And I want to, in fact, I'll do it this afternoon. I want to order one of his books called Solve the Happy, I think it's
Oh,
called.
yes.
And I loved that. He gave a great podcast with what's it called? The Diary of a SEO.
Oh, yes.
No, not SEO. What am I saying?
CEO.
CEO.
Yeah. Yes,
Which is
yeah.
And brilliant conversation. So I think, yeah, sharing those things as well is really really great, because you don't know if you don't know. And I feel if something resonates with you and you go and look at it and it enhances you, again, it gives you a new dimension to think about. So
Yeah.
exciting. While I went to get a coffee just a minute ago, I brought back the dress.
Oh, lovely. Let's have a look.
Look.
Oh, wow. Isn't that beautiful?
It looks really great. Look at the back.
Oh, I
Isn't
love
it
the
bad?
sleeve.
I know. Isn't
Yeah.
it great?
Oh, that's lovely. So is this with paints or with dyes?
No, it's with acrylic. It's with my old acrylic paints.
Okay.
And I'm going to do the others. And I think maybe what I might do is video doing it if I can, because I've got to do it
That's a good idea.
outside.
Yeah.
So I might do that.
Do you think it'll be color fast in the sense that, when you wash it?
Well, it's acrylic. Yeah, I've got to iron it now. It's dried now. So I've got to iron it. Once you've ironed it, you've sealed it. Well, you know what? If you get acrylic on your clothes, it's virtually impossible to get it off.
True, yeah.
So I understand that how you seal it now is to iron it.
To really bind it to the fabric.
Bond it together. And also I added a little bit of a fabric conditioner. It's called what's it called? The textured stuff that you put in, like a conditioner that you add to the acrylic, so it doesn't make the fabric so stiff.
Yes.
You iron it, it will smooth it out.
Keep it small, yeah, keep it soft.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and if you don't have the acrylic too thick, then it works quite well. So yeah, maybe I'll do a video of it.
Yeah, please.
The
start a whole new thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of having paintings behind me, I'll just have dresses.
Or, what you could do is you could take pieces of fabric, old rags or something, and do, that kind of an effect, and then cut them up and use them on a collage on the background.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On the canvas, make it really three-dimensional, wouldn't it?
So that's something interesting to think about. So I think you've got the list of some of the subjects that we want to talk about.
So here, just in random order, I thought we would talk about the importance of empty space.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, I think, when you're painting, and especially I think, well, I mean, I'm sure it applies in any kind of painting, but in watercolor, there's an intent to leave that white coming through, isn't there? Because it allows for your eye to have a place to sort of rest and settle and have the contrast between the colors. And I think similarly, our brains need that empty space. And that's why we meditate. Well, that's why one could meditate or should meditate.
Should.
Yeah, I do. I confess I have been pretty good about it the last couple of months. But yes, I know it's not always.
But I think painting in itself is meditatory.
Yes.
because you do go off into a whole different zone. I mean, time can just disappear, can't it?
Right.
And I mean, I don't meditate as often as I used to, but I do. But I find that when I'm painting, it's kind of completely changes your perspective and your brain and your thinking and your whole whatever's going on in the brain. I feel it changes massively because you're so focused on being, in the zone of what you're doing. So
Yeah.
it's a meditation in itself.
Right.
But yes, I kind of think that the meditation is really helpful, and I do feel that painting gives you that. And everything kind of balances up. Your breathing changes, you relax your body very much more. You're using a different kind of part of your brain. I talk a lot in a lot of my courses about moving from the left side of the brain to the right side of the brain to open that creativity box. And once you get in that zone, you're off and away. The reason why I think a lot of people have difficulty to start a painting is it's the shift from thinking, what am I going to do, to actually starting. Once you start, then you've opened the door.
Right.
But it's that challenge between, oh my God, what am I going to do? And is it going to be okay? And am I going to make a mess? And I don't know where to start, all that stuff. That actually just putting, the brush in the paint and the paint on the paper or the canvas starts you.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to just, it's interesting because I think a lot of us think about this left brain, right brain sort of dichotomy in the way that our minds work, our brains work. And it's actually not true. I didn't realize this either. It was in my, learning of my neuroscience coaching program that it's not what we think it is. It's not the left brain or the right brain being creative or being logical thinking. Both sides of your brains are all of your brain, singular, are working together all the time. And it's just different aspects, different parts of the brain are being activated at different times. Anyway, I don't want to get into all the details of that, but it was kind of interesting for me too, because I was also under the impression that it was a very, hemisphere-sided way of looking at, this is how your brain works when you're thinking logically, and this is the other side of your brain when you're thinking creative or being creative. But anyway, that's it's definitely true that we shift how we use
it's a shift of focus.
That's right.
It?
That's right. Yeah,
it's kind of like the letting go of the thinking, and then the allowing of something to be created. I think that the challenge that we have is that we're so used to working in the what would you call it, the logical or the mathematical or the linear
rational
way, rational way, 2 and 2 makes 4, 4 and 4, what I mean. It's kind of compartmentalized and organized because of our education and our experiences. Whereas the other focus is it's untrodden ground. We're not sure. We're having, I mean, faith is such an interesting word, but we sort of have faith in ourselves that something is going to unfold. Because we don't know what it is.
It's scary, isn't it?
If we're stuck in the other side of the focus, it's scary. Because it might show us something that we don't necessarily want to see.
True. I think there's a lot of artists, and I think you do this as well, is that when you have this blank canvas in front of you and you're not even really sure what it is that you want to do, you just start, with a pencil or a marker or whatever, you just scribble.
Exactly. It's the free drawing.
Just to kind of break that barrier of, oh, I have to put something down. Just do anything. anything at all. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why, you know, especially when somebody's first starting off with that first course, the Abstract Made Simple, you know, the first exercises are all about free drawing, just kind of, you know, I suppose very big doodles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And just doesn't matter what you do, and then seeing what you can formulate from
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But it's a really good starting place, and I do that a lot myself, and I've done it for years and years and years, and that was something, again, my godfather used to teach me about drawing. You know, start, just see what happens. Doesn't matter whether you scribble or whether you doodle or whether you blah 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 blah. And actually it's proved that, like you do with the Zentangles, you know, you start creating naturally patterns. You actually, it's quite difficult to stop yourself creating patterns.
Exactly. I know your brain automatically starts to recognize shapes, and then you start to you start to accentuate those shapes, or build them into something else. Yeah, I know. It's
Exactly. And I think
happens.
that's really quite insightful. When you start to doodle, it's difficult to stop yourself from creating.
Yeah, yeah,
There's an
exactly.
aha moment.
Yeah. There's a type of drawing. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's called neurographica. And it's a very free-flowing sort of line art. And you're basically just making swirls and lines and whatever across the page. And then what you do is that I'll show you in another opportunity, is that where the lines intersect, you round out those corners so that you're creating a soft sort of a melding of those shapes together. And then you end up with almost something that looks like a neuron, a brain cell. When you think of a brain cell, and it has all of these different synapses and things coming out of it. And it really, you end up with this really beautiful design at the end, and of course you can color it in and you can put designs inside of this.
Yeah.
But it's
interesting.
It's a way
well,
of
maybe for the next one you'll do one, and then you can
I would love
show
to.
me and whoever's watching. That would be really nice.
It is going to be something I will do in one of my, I'm in the process of putting together my own little YouTube videos of how-tos, so that will definitely
would be really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've covered a huge amount of stuff for our first podcast, our Art Splash. And I hope that we've created some interest for listeners to come back and listen again. I think we're going to try and do this once a fortnight to start with, aren't we?
Yeah.
To begin with, so we get familiar and we find out, what you would like us to talk about and what's of interest, and hopefully deliver.
We welcome everybody's feedback and comments. Definitely.
So I'm not sure whether we've arrived on a day yet of the fortnight for when we're going to do it. Perhaps we should have done that before.
It'll happen naturally.
So maybe once a fortnight on a Monday or a Tuesday or something like that. We don't know yet. But I hope you've enjoyed listening and getting to know us a little bit, and seeing that we could have some really great, interesting, fun, usable conversations.
Yes. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to us and get to know us. And there's lots more fun things to come.
Absolutely. So, and thank you.
Yes, thank you also, Joy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And do we want to kind of give out our information?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page, and you've got your Facebook page as well, your artist.
Yeah, so what's your Facebook page called?
It's Neurocreative Coaching. We can put the link down in the comments of both of our Facebook pages.
Yeah, and your website is on its way, isn't it?
And the website is on its way, hopefully in the next 10 days or so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my Facebook page is Joy Fahey Artist, and I've got two websites. One for my classes, which is joyfaheyclasses.com, where all the different things that I do are on there, including the membership information and the free mini course and various other things. And then all my art is on Joy Fahey Artist. So those are our links. And we'll be putting the podcast on all of them, I think,
Yes.
won't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
As well as everything, all the other interesting things that we've been talking about, maybe
Yeah.
more videos and links to other interesting information. You know, I think it's
Exactly.
important for us to disseminate other people's discussions and insights as well. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at YouTube, then that would be great if you want to like what we've done, if you do, and ask any questions in the comments and share it if you feel that you've got friends that would enjoy, and subscribe so you will know when the next one is coming.
Yes, please. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, bye, Joy. It was lovely chatting
Thank
with
you,
you.
Eve. Lots of love.
Have a
Take
lovely
care.
day. Bye.
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 Bye, everybody.